IP copyright stuff is so labyrinthian. It is. It's a very like imperfect part of law too, is what I've kind of realized over the years I've been doing this. A lot of stuff that you could just agree to in a DM does and does not count in court for different types of things. It's really like, it can be really confusing. And I think a lot of folks are very uneducated on like what they should be doing, what good practices are to make sure that you actually own everything that you've purchased from someone. And a lot of artists don't know how this works in different countries and stuff too either. So they'll like just write in their terms of service, like, if you get this commission from me, like you have full rights to use it commercially. Okay, but do I own it? Or are you licensing me the rights? Am I buying the rights in an ownership kind of way? Or are you allowing me to use it, but you still own it? That's not specified in almost every agreement anyone has with an artist ever. I'm just telling you right now, they don't specify that typically. So what you need is a work for hire agreement, like a little piece of paper that just says this counts as work for hire. You are selling me the asset after you make it. I own it and can use it commercially, etc. Right? Like just one piece of paper to hand to every artist that you buy something from. But yeah, most people don't do that, and that's a little scary. Like they really don't. And I look at this and I'm like, man, the land of all this stuff is a little spooky, But you know, you just talk to a lawyer, rent them out for a couple hours, have them write up one little piece of paper for you to make sure that anytime you have one of those signed, you fully own this thing. There you go. Commercial buyout fees need to be involved in these things. LOL. It's not just commercial buyout fees. I'm saying like you have to write down, like, by purchasing these rights, this fee covers you have full ownership of the original piece and you have commercial rights to sell it. And like it needs to be written like that, and they don't always write it like that in their TOS. You know, most artists mean well, and they know what they mean when they're writing it, so they're not going to go after someone for it. But yeah, it's heavily built on trust. Exactly. And I think you assume the worst and hope for the best, right? You should assume that people will go after you for things when you're operating so that you can be safe. But then you know deep down these people are not going to do this. But it doesn't matter. People should just be more careful. They really should, but they don't. As an artist, I offer licenses unless they want to purchase the ownership/copyright, which I ask about. Yeah, exactly, right? Like you are recognizing that they're different things. I think some people don't, well, not a lot of people don't know that those are different things. So that sucks. That sucks. It's rough. In some countries, the right cannot be sold, only licensed. I know, it's crazy. That's why I tell people I love hiring foreign artists for things if I can. You know, like I really don't care where someone's from, but there's certain things where you need an agreement in both countries, or that's valid for both countries, or you should just hire domestic artists for certain things. Sometimes you just have to. It's a little scary. You know, I mean, you could have your stuff for like 3 years and be using it. It's yours. It's all intents and purposes. It's yours. And then someone could come out of the woodwork and be like, you know what? I've decided I can't stand you. And then they're like, give me your model. You know, like they could turn around and do some crazy shit if you're not careful. Doesn't happen often at all, but it's happened like 1 or 2 times, you know. And it's so scary, man. Just hire somebody to make sure your shit's good. Seeing that is insane to me. The thing that's crazy, it's like almost always just petty, because what's that person going to do with that like model they yoinked back, right? But at the same time, totally understand the pettiness, and I think it's rightful when like that person didn't pay you for that thing properly, so therefore you're yoinking it back or something like that, you know? I'm like, it makes a lot of sense. It depends on the situation. There are times where that's their only recourse. It's the only thing they can do. They can't recoup their money, so instead they're like, well, then I'm taking the piece back because that's all I can do, you know? And that'd be career suicide for the artist who wants a commission from someone like that. Well, like I said, there are cases where it makes a lot of sense. I don't know. I think the art world is all very confusing when it comes to like copyright. Who owns a VTubers model? Who owns the art that they used for promotions? Who owns all these things? It's just such a complicated, complex little situation. I don't know. I think the art world is all very confusing when it comes to like copyright. Who owns a VTubers model? Who owns the art that they used for promotions? Who owns all these things? It's just such a complicated, complex little situation. Yeah, it's spooky because a lot of streamers start young with little or no adult experience. They're thrown right into the world of being an independent business owner. Very easy to get screwed. On the back end, I have an image. Outwardly, people are like, that's John Business of VTubing. she knows about all of this. I don't think I'm an expert on every little thing, but I can at least help research if I don't know myself already, you know? So a lot of VTubers just straight up, even if they don't know me that well, they just message me and they're like, what do I do about this? Like I'm an advice hotline. And they, you know, they ask me a lot of this stuff and I try to help. I cannot tell you how many people I've advised to do things a certain way. They're like, should I do this? And I'm like, you shouldn't sign that. You don't sign that. Oh, should I do this? No, you should not. Or, you know, you should with legal counsel, you should do this thing. And they don't listen. Or they're like, should I buy this thing from this artist? Their TOS is kind of vague. And I'm like, yeah, just hand them a paper that says these things. Work that out with your own lawyer. Get get someone who's not me to do that, obviously, someone who's licensed, and work out something that makes sure it's like this, and then hand them that paper, and if they sign it, then you're good. And they'll be like, oh, okay, and then they just don't do it. They're like, that sounds inconvenient. So I will just trust everyone and buy everything from everyone. And then, like, I can't tell you how many people I've warned about all these little things, and I'm like, brother, don't do it, and they still do it. It's so, ugh. Yeah, why'd you ask my advice in the first place? It's all the time, all the time. I feel like that's a very, everyone does that. I want to say it's a very young person thing. It happens more with my younger friends. I'll point something out and I'll be like, hey, you think this person's helping you? They're not though, here's why. And they'll be like, but they mean well. And I'm like, oh my God. It's always my younger friends, you know? You can only do so much. You advise and you're like, that artist's gonna turn around and do something because you didn't make them sign a thing. Or, you like warn people about this stuff, and you can only do so much. After a certain point, people are gonna do what they're gonna do. And yeah, they need to make their own mistakes. They need to learn on their own. So I help people, but if they ask me the same question 3 times and they don't listen, honestly, the second time they ask, I'm like, no. No. I had one friend ask me about like someone that they wanted as a moderator. They were like, I'm trying to look for mods and I have these people. Who do you think would be like good? And they showed me their applications. I read through them and I pointed out red flags in them. And it was stuff that they thought was really mundane. They're like, I don't think that means they'll be a bad mod. And I was like, no, this thing they said right here is a sign, domino effect. This is the tiny domino, but the big domino at the end of this is this other thing that you don't want. I promise you, this little thing that they're saying here is going to turn into that. And they're like, no. This friend ended up having so much turmoil because they brought in a mod that I called from the moment I read their application. I was like, this person is this way and it's going to cause you issues. And they still brought them in. And I was like, brother, if I tell you you don't listen, I'm not helping you with it later. So then they come to me later and they're like, oh, it did turn into, what should I do? And I was like, tell them to f off. What do you want from me? You didn't listen. They were like asking for my help, like asking me to actually like, can you help proofread my message to them? I was like, brother, I already told you. Can you even go about finding trustworthy mods in the first place? Find people who seem to care about the community, genuinely, that actually like hanging out with the community. Find people who don't do it just because of you, okay? That's the big part for me. If someone wants to be a mod, but they want to be a mod because they want a mod for me, not for my community, then I probably don't want them. Am I flattered? Yes. But there needs to be a level of respect that they have for the community, and they can't be doing it because they want me to like pat them on the head and be like, oh, good job, like, no, it should be because they like the community, they like the content. They're sitting here watching it all the time. They like the chat. Yeah, and they have to be gay. Exactly. It's part of the requirements, but it's just very important that they actually want to be in the community. So if I'm not streaming and they're hanging out in VC, they're having a good time and they don't hate everyone there. That's the baseline. That's the baseline for me. And they have to be gay, or at least like, the musical cabaret. At least that's all I ask. If I say like, do you like Liza Minnelli? They have to be like, I loved her in, and then they list something she was in, they're accepted in. That's how it goes. I'm trying to think of what the other red flags are. There are a lot of little things. I don't know how to describe it, but like, I'll just see a lot of like little things that people do or say, and I'll point it out and be like, that's the small domino. And you almost feel bad pointing it out because like in a vacuum, certain behaviors that people have are really, really not an issue. But when 95% of the time, that little thing always becomes that big thing, that big domino at the end, then like at some point you have to keep calling out that small thing and being like, we got to prune this. Calling it out earlier and earlier, No, I mean, you just have to. It was a small domino in that instance, if you can share. I have to try and remember. It was how they phrased something. It was a while back. It was something like in their question where they were like, why do you want to be a mod for me specifically? I don't remember how they worded something, but the general like TLDR of how they answered that question was it was very much about that VTuber. You could tell from the paragraph that they wanted to get closer to the creator to help them. And that wasn't actually the problem. There was a specific thing they said in there that I pointed out, and it gave me this vibe of this person wanted to be a savior, right? They worded something in a way where it made me feel like they didn't even respect the creator enough. They thought that like they could help them because they can't help themselves, right? And then that wasn't what they said, but the way it was worded, you could tell that that's what they thought. Little hero complex, little savior complex. And I pointed it out and I was like, they think you're stupid. They think you're a stupid baby. I was like, I'm gonna hyperbolize this so you understand what I'm pointing out here. They think you're a stupid baby and they can save you. They can be your said that or some shit. That's what this sounds like to me, okay? And they were like, that's not at all what they said. And I'm like, I know that's not what they said, but you can read between the lines, you know? And I was like, I was pointing out, I was like, that's definitely what they're writing here. And they were like, no. And then months later, I feel like they treat me like a stupid fucking baby. And I was like, yeah, oh man. It's almost like the moment you let them in, the mask came off, you know? They started getting like a little controlling, trying to tell them what they should stream. Oh, you know, it'd be really good if you stream this. This game's popular right now. You should stream it. I'm sorry, you're a mod for the chat. Like what? They were just coming out of nowhere being like, yeah, I'm your strategy advisor now. Like I'm your top content strategist. They just started like dropping at this person. And I was like, oh, a mod's not a manager? Managers don't even do that half the time. I was talking about this the other day. Some managers, sometimes you ask them for strategic advice because they do have their fingers on the pulse of things sometimes. But a lot of the time, your manager is there to manage your projects. They're not there to be your second brain. Some of them can be if you want that.